Hi everyone, it's Cathy Zielske. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have a pair of thank you cards to share with you that have a fall palette of color and some really simple techniques that I think are easy to replicate. I really like picking a limited color palette and creating within that parameter. So let's jump in and take a look at the products I'm using today. This stamp set is called All the Thanks. I designed this for my collection at Simon Says Stamp. It's just a very all-purpose and big, this is a 6x8 set, all designed around gratitude. Got these talk bubbles, big sentiments, sub-sentiments. The idea here, if you need a thank you card, I got you covered. For my inks today, I'll be using some colors from Gina K Designs along with Gina's embossing ink, and I've got some white powder from Brutus Monroe. I'm also going to be using this wonderful stencil from Gina K Designs. It has all of these leaf shapes that just remind me of fall. And for my cardstock, I've got some Kraft, some white, and some orange cardstock that is the sweet mango color. I've also got the coordinating dies for this stamp set that I'm going to be cutting out a few things, and I've got some clear drops from Pretty Pink Posh. Let's jump into the project. One of the things I'm using is Pixie Spray. This is a light tack, repositionable adhesive that works wonderfully with stencils. You spray it onto your stencil and it will hold your project in place. So I like to take my stencil, put the sticky side up and place my cardstock right onto the stencil like that. And now all those little openings will stay in place when I begin to blend. And today I'm using the blender brushes from Tailored Expressions. I really like that these are color-coded. They help me to always remember, oh yeah, the pink brush goes with the pink inks. And I love that you can buy a little caddy for them. So let's get started with the blending. I'm going to load up a brush with some of the color, and this is the Sweet Mango. And all I'm going to do is just work across in a diagonal in rainbow order with the colors that I've chosen. I love stencils and ink blending because they almost hold your brush up in like a perfect way so that you don't get too much ink on, but you do control, of course, by how much pressure you put down. And I'm just working my way across. This is the sweet corn, and the third color is the jelly bean green. And I try to overlap just a little bit where the two colors meet to create a blend, but this is just your basic rainbow order. And the fourth color that I'm going to layer in is Kraft, because I thought that would create sort of a cool fall feel by having that color come in. I'm not going to go all the way down to the bottom though, because I wanted this to have a little bit of a blend into white for this card panel. So I'm laying that down, and now when I peel it back, you can see the beautiful blended pattern. And doesn't that have a fall feel? I love this stencil. I really think it's cute. I'll set that aside to dry, and next I'm going to stamp my sentiment. I'm going to use this big Thankful for You. I'm going to hold my little scrap of cardstock in place with my bar magnet because I'm going to stamp this down a few times just to get a really nice coverage of my ink. I'm going to take my embossing magic, and this just lays down a little bit of powder to remove all the static or oil off your cardstock so that when you stamp your sticky ink, your powder is only going to stick to where you are stamping. You can ink it up really well and get a nice coating on there and then press that down. And I always bring in my little Swiffer cloth just to give a nice even pressure onto the stamp, lifting it up. And now the beauty of having a stamp positioner like the Misty, you can stamp it right back down in the same exact place and get a fantastic impression. And that's exactly what I wanted. Next, I'll add my powder. I'm going to sprinkle this on. And I kind of missed the T up there, so I was like, oh, was that a stamping issue? No, just human error. But I like to go with a few coatings just to make sure the coverage is perfect, and then tapping it off, you can see all the other powder falls away. Now I'll get my heat tool nice and hot and quickly work my way around to melt all the powder until it is smooth. Looks great. To cut this out, I have a coordinating die, and what I did was created a template first. These dies I think can be tricky to work with, but if you cut a template from another piece of contrasting cardstock and then you tape that into place after everything's framed out, you can drop your die into that opening and it kind of locks into place. You can feel it, and then you tape it down. I learned this from my friend Gina K, and it has saved me so much die cutting anguish, if you will, because I'm going to run this through and I'm going to get a perfect cut. Just took a little extra time, but then I don't have to stamp it again. Look at that, looks great. While my die cut machine is out, I'm going to use one of my layers dies. This is from a set called A2 Layers from Waffle Flower Crafts. I love this set because it cuts perfectly sized card panels. Isn't that pretty? Now I'm going to use some fun foam to add some dimension. Sometimes I use foam tape, but I'm actually out of foam tape, so I also have a lot of fun foam. I like to add it with this really sticky tape runner from Scrapbook Adhesives. Pop that right down onto the panel, and it's really strong adhesive, so it will hold it in place. And that creates a panel with nice even dimension. I'll use foam squares on the sentiment itself because I'm going to pop that up as well. I'm going to score my card base. This will be a US A2 size, which is 5.5 by 4.25. I'm going to press that down nicely, and then I always like to tape my card bases closed with a little purple tape just to hold it flat while I am aligning everything on the top. And now I'll use some liquid glue on the fun foam. This works really well because it allows you a little bit of wiggle room and playtime before you have to really commit to where it sticks. Get that in place, make sure it's all nice and even on all sides, and press down. I'll bring in my little T-square ruler to get my sentiment straight, pop that right into place, and I really like that down at the bottom. And I'll finish off this card with some clear drops. I'm just using the same liquid adhesive and a jewel picker. I'm not great with a jewel picker, but sometimes with these little glass drops it kind of is helpful. But I'll work my way around, getting them all down on the card. And once they dry, they're not going anywhere, and that looks really cute. So that's card one. Moving on. For the second card, I wanted to use the talk bubbles. I really like these. I think they're really fun. You could use a single one on a card, but I thought, let's use all three. And what I wanted to do here is use the same ink colors, but I'm only going to stamp them once. Now you could stamp them multiple times, right? But I thought I want to see what they look like with just the single stamping. And the nice thing is about Gina K Designs ink, when you first stamp it, it might not seem super smooth, but the ink has a smoothing agent, and it works really well. So I'm going to use the same technique with the dies and the templates, and I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera, and I will emerge with 3 perfectly cut talk bubbles. And see how much smoother the ink looks? It smooths out as it dries. It's wonderful. Wanted to show you another little tip here. I've got my note card, it's folded and ready to go, but I wanted to add my sentiment inside. So I'm going to place down my little sub-sentiment, and the nice thing about the MISTI is you can hang your card base out. It can be open, it's not going to get bent or marred in any way, so you can ink up your sentiment for the inside and get a perfect impression like that. Now off camera, I used this embossing folder from Close to My Heart to create an embossed panel, which I also trimmed down with the A2 Layers die. But look at that cool texture. I love the whole tone-on-tone effect you get with embossing folders. I added fun foam to the back of this panel as well. I'm going to glue that down, and you can kind of see I used a slightly larger A2 Layers die, so that has a more narrow margin. And then I'm just popping up the talk bubbles. I think I was a little low on my placement, but you know what? I still think it's pretty cute. And that's the finished card project. So there you have it, 2 cards using the same color scheme, the same inks. And I think both are pretty simple designs that should be, well, hopefully inspiring you to pull out some of your favorite colors, limit your palette, and create some fun card projects. I would love to have you become a subscriber to my channel, and also don't forget to hit that little gray bell below the video so that you get notified every time I post a new video. Thanks for watching, and have a fantastic day.